newest one, and that just
Yeah, I mean, it just works. I mean, it really, really is well done, and it's pretty fast. You know, the built-in Wi-Fi is really great. As I say, the web applications are almost more important than the phone part of it. You know, it's a shame you're stuck with AT&T. I mean, that's one of the negatives on that.
Yeah, I live in an area where we don't have AT&T coverage.
Yeah. I have.
It's open here in Australia, which is good too.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
But
I'm a big fan of the. I'm a big fan of the show Cranky Geeks, and there's one thing that keeps on being repeated over and over again. It's usually the apps is what sell a device.
Of course.
And I think in the iPhone section, I think it really has completely blown our mind. You know, not just in a small way either. You know.
Oh, I mean, it's always been the case. You're absolutely right. I mean, I just talked about VisiCalc. Really, is why the software is why people bought PCs in the early days.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's a weird. Computers there's no business really quite like that, where the hardware is just a platform. It's totally useless without the software. And if you establish a popular platform, I think there's no other business where. I mean, the reason Microsoft became so powerful because people just want one standard.
Yeah.
They don't want 5 different things to worry about. The reason eBay became popular, the reason Amazon became popular, because in this digital world, it's easier to have one place to go. And so when one platform gets software support or application support, it's going to dominate because of the software, not because of the hardware.
Definitely. Just like Google in the past couple of years, just as far as online, just being a one stop for like Google Earth and YouTube.
Google's playing their cards pretty smart because it's the same idea. I mean, once you become the sort of the portal, the first place you go when you go online, that's tremendous economic power, obviously.
Yes.
But Google. I know a lot about Google. Those guys have that company changed radically when it went public.
So it's not the same Google as it was back then, that's for sure, is it?
Well, any company that has to have a motto, do no evil, is doing evil. You shouldn't need that motto. I knew that company before anybody had ever heard of Google, and I knew Sergey and Larry. I mean, they were smart kids that put together something really cool. But then when $1 billion ended up in their lap, and the economic consequences of every decision had big dollar signs in front of it, they started acting more like Microsoft than like a startup.
Oh yeah, that.
And
you can see they're definitely bringing up the rear in the sense of what they're developing now. Besides just the online cloud applications, you've also got whispers of a new operating system coming out by Google.
Oh, absolutely.
You've got them joining that union group against suing Linux, users and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. They have so much money. They're the Microsoft of this decade. They can do anything they want, really, and they have huge power, as Microsoft had with Windows and with Office, to take advantage of the position with their customers by way of the search engine to do a million other businesses.
Should Microsoft be worried about Linux at the moment? I think it's starting to get to that point yet.
Well, I think Microsoft has been worried about Linux, for a long time. Linux has taken a big chunk out of Microsoft business in certain areas. But I think I think there's a limit to how far Linux can go in attacking Microsoft, certainly on the operating system side. Linux has been around for a while. It hasn't really hurt Windows that much. I think they're more concerned with Google directly in a way than they are with Linux.
That's why they made that 10-year deal with Yahoo.
Yes, exactly.
But yeah, I gotta agree with you on that. I tried Linux for a little while, and it doesn't compare to Windows. It's just something about Windows that I like.
Yeah, Linux is nice. The first netbook I bought with Linux on it. I figured, why not? And it was just too much of a pain, really.
Yeah. And I kind of agree with you on that whole Apple thing, but my problem with Apple is they have this thing where they think they're better, they're more trendy than everyone, and I don't like that.
Well, Apple is a religion. It's not really a company, you know.
I mean, I bought a Zune. Everyone I know owns an iPod. I'm like the only person with a Zune.
Proud of you. Very proud of you.
Thank you. I like it. I mean, for 14
but they're extremely clever at marketing. They're extremely clever at advertising. They've built up this image where people are willing to pay 50% more to get an Apple product, which in most cases is insane.
Yeah.
And I defy anybody to tell me that a Macintosh really is easier to use than a PC. It's simply not.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
my friend James would get in an argument with you. He just got a MacBook like 6 months ago, and he thinks it's like the greatest thing ever.
That's because he's part of that religion, you see.
Yeah.
Well, look, they're good machines, but I mean, I crash just as much on my Mac as I do on my PC. Sometimes I have just as many problems installing things on a Mac as I do on a PC. And the Mac does some things, it does media very well, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, a PC, I mean, I go back to the DOS days, when you didn't have a graphical user interface. And even still in Windows, you have the feeling you can get inside more and look at things more and have more control. Yeah. The Mac is more closed to you, it seems to me.
Well, yeah, I mean, I just prefer I got just a Toshiba laptop, and I like it because I'm a gamer, so I can play games on Macs.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's another good example of what we were talking about before, about how software drives hardware success. I mean, when the Mac only having less than 10% of the market in hardware, there wasn't the software to support it, and so people, if you're a gamer, if you're into business applications, you're going to go into Windows because there's just more choice.
Exactly.
That actually brings up a good question I've got here, actually. NVIDIA released a GPU that is able to perform like multimedia tasks like sound, HD video, graphics rendering, and possibly act as a central CPU for like netbooks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Are there any high-end desktop models being built that are Microsoft looking at compiling a Windows to run on the platform?
I don't know of that. That's a really interesting question. I don't really know the answer to that. Microsoft has become a bit stodgy over the past couple of years, obviously, and lost a little bit of their flexibility and ability to move quickly. But it's really funny, actually. Speaking about Microsoft, some years ago I was interviewing Bill Gates, and this is the time when Microsoft owned the world. I mean, Windows was everything. And I remember him sitting there saying, I go to bed every night worrying about what haven't I thought about that's going to do me in tomorrow. And everybody thought, what a ridiculous thing for Bill Gates to be worrying about somebody doing him in. And what he wasn't thinking about was Google and the web and all that stuff.
I think Microsoft just spread themselves out too much with these new media devices, the new game consoles.
Yeah.
Done too much. I mean, they're successful usually in most markets, but
right.
Get to them.
Well, they just somehow got the sort of, evil Darth Vader image after a while because of some of the, they are very aggressive in the way they deal with competition, the way they blew out Netscape and so on.
I didn't like Netscape.
Yeah, but I mean, Microsoft, as Google does now, uses its power to try to dominate any field it gets into it. And when you had Windows platform, you could control what browser people were going to use, basically.
Yeah.
Because Google now has the ability to control a lot of things if people are going to be in the cloud.
It was the same with Real Media as well back in the day.
Absolutely. Yeah, same deal, right. I mean, the sad thing is, we were talking about, my stopping the show in 2003. I mean, there was a period of time when there really was something called a software industry. And basically, half of the things you used to, except for games, half the things you used to buy as packaged software, they're not there anymore because they're all been absorbed into an operating system.
Yeah.
I mean, it used to be a lot of fun shopping for software. Now there's nothing there anymore. Everything is sort of taken care of and all sort of integrated.
I remember one of your videos you did on the Chronicles talking about the OS2 Warp. And the guy was on showing a media center.
Right.
And it's quite funny because it is your basic media player now,
Yeah, exactly. There's actually a very funny episode, I don't know if you happen to see it, in which we had on a guy from Microsoft during the IBM OS2 period. And I don't know if you remember, there's a long story there about it. For a while, IBM and Microsoft had a deal. And the guy from Microsoft who was showing off some, Windows 3.1 or something like that, was said, well, of course, OS2 is the operating system of the future.